The first 3 years of an oil palm plantation, what really happens. Most people only show you a mature oil palm plantation loaded with fresh fruit bunches. They show the profits, they show the harvest, they show the success. But almost nobody shows you the first 3 years, the part where most people quit. If you're thinking about investing in oil palm, these first 3 years will determine whether your plantation becomes a valuable asset or an expensive mistake. So in this video, I'll walk you through what actually happens during year 1, year 2, and year 3. No hype, no unrealistic promises, just the reality every future oil palm farmer should understand before planting the very first seedling. Why the first 3 years matter. An oil palm plantation is different from many other businesses. You don't invest today and start earning next month. Instead, you're building an asset that takes time before it begins producing income. Think of it like constructing a factory. Before the factory can produce anything, you must buy the land, build the infrastructure, install the equipment, and maintain everything. Oil palm works the same way. The plantation is your factory. The trees are your machines. And those machines need time before they start working for you. The first 3 years are all about building that factory correctly. If you rush the process or ignore maintenance, the consequences can affect your plantation for decades. Year 1. Building the foundation. The first year is usually the most expensive. Ironically, it's also the year that produces zero income. This is where many beginners experience reality for the first time. Before a single seedling enters the ground, there's a lot of preparation. The land may need clearing, old vegetation may need to be removed, roads or access paths may need to be created. Drainage may need to be improved if water collects on the land. In some locations, soil testing is also worthwhile. Healthy soil saves money later. Once the land is ready, the seedlings are planted carefully with proper spacing. Spacing matters more than many beginners realize. Plant too close together, and the trees compete for sunlight and nutrients. Plant too far apart, and you're wasting valuable land. A small mistake in spacing can reduce productivity for the next 25 years. After planting comes the work that never appears in glamorous social media videos. Weeding, watering during dry periods if necessary, replacing seedlings that die, applying fertilizer, protecting young palms from pests and grazing animals, monitoring for diseases. Every month your plantation demands attention, not because it's making money, because it's becoming capable of making money later. By the end of year 1, the palms still look relatively small. Many beginners become discouraged. They wonder whether they made the wrong investment. The truth is that this slow beginning is completely normal. The plantation is focusing on growing roots before growing profits. Year 2. The invisible progress. Year 2 is often the hardest psychologically. You've already spent money. You're still spending money, but there's still little or no financial return. Some investors lose patience during this period. Yet this is when the plantation is quietly preparing for future production. The root system becomes much stronger. The trunk becomes thicker. The leaves become larger. The canopy begins expanding. From a distance, it may not seem dramatic, but underground and inside the plant, enormous development is taking place. Maintenance remains critical. Weed control continues. Fertilizer becomes even more important because the palms are growing rapidly. Poor nutrition during this stage can reduce future yields. Pruning starts becoming more organized. Regular inspections help detect nutrient deficiencies before they become serious problems. If pests appear, early intervention usually costs far less than waiting until the damage spreads. One mistake some new farmers make during year 2 is reducing maintenance because they haven't seen income yet. This can become very expensive. Skipping fertilizer to save money today may reduce production for years after harvesting begins. Year 2 teaches one important lesson. Oil palm rewards consistency, not shortcuts. Year 3, the beginning of harvest. This is the year many investors have been waiting for. Depending on the variety planted, climate, management quality, and local growing conditions, many plantations begin producing their first fresh fruit bunches during the 3rd year. The first harvest is exciting, but it's important to manage expectations. The trees are still young. Production is usually much lower than a fully mature plantation. This isn't the time to expect maximum profits. Instead, think of year 3 as proof that your investment is beginning to work. Harvesting now becomes part of the routine. Fresh fruit bunches must be harvested at the correct maturity. Harvesting too early reduces oil content. Harvesting too late can increase fruit loss. Timing matters. Transportation also becomes important. Oil palm fruit should be processed as quickly as possible after harvest because delays reduce oil quality. This is why many successful plantations pay close attention to logistics, not just farming. Cash flow also starts changing. The plantation may finally begin generating income, but maintenance does not stop. Fertilizer, weeding, pruning, pest management, road maintenance. All of these continue because the goal is no longer just keeping the trees alive. The goal is maximizing future production. Mistakes that can ruin the first 3 years. Let's talk about the mistakes that hurt many new plantations. The first is buying poor quality seedlings. Cheap seedlings often become expensive mistakes. You cannot easily replace years of lost growth. The second mistake is poor land preparation. Ignoring drainage or planting in unsuitable conditions can reduce productivity long term. The third mistake is inconsistent maintenance. Trees don't stop growing because you're busy. Missing fertilizer applications or allowing weeds to take over slows development. The fourth mistake is expecting quick profits. Many people invest without understanding the timeline. Then they become disappointed and abandon the plantation just before it begins producing. Another mistake is treating oil palm like a passive investment. While mature plantations become easier to manage, the early years require active attention. A neglected plantation rarely rewards its owner. What successful farmers understand. Experienced oil palm farmers think differently. They don't measure success by how much money the plantation makes during year 1. They measure success by how healthy the palms look. They celebrate strong growth, uniform development, healthy leaves, proper spacing, good maintenance, because they understand something beginners often miss. Healthy trees eventually produce healthy harvests. Poorly managed trees rarely catch up. Patience is not simply waiting. Patience is continuing to do the right work, even when the financial reward hasn't arrived yet. Is it worth waiting 3 years? For some people, the answer is no. If you need immediate income, oil palm may not be the right investment for your current situation. But if you're building long-term wealth, those 3 years are the price you pay for owning an asset that can continue producing for decades when managed properly. Many valuable investments require delayed gratification. The people who benefit later are often the ones willing to stay consistent early. That's why understanding the first 3 years is so important. When you know what to expect, you're less likely to panic during the slow seasons, and you're more likely to stay committed until the plantation begins rewarding your patience. Conclusion. The first 3 years of an oil palm plantation are not about getting rich quickly. They're about building something that has the potential to generate value for many years. Year 1 is about establishing the plantation. Year 2 is about strengthening it. Year 3 is about seeing the first signs that your investment is beginning to pay off. If you understand this journey before you plant, you'll make better decisions, avoid common mistakes, and give your plantation the best chance of long-term success. If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing to the channel. Every week, we break down the realities of oil palm farming, plantation economics, and practical lessons that can help you make better investment decisions.